Welcome to a news guide to Victoria 3, your go-to source for the contextual history of 1836. Today's episode, the United States of America. Burgeoning superpower? Not yet. These United States are a ragtag gang of former colonies, only a generation removed from British rule, and only a dream of stretching from sea to shining sea. Turns out independence wasn't all sunshine and daisies. Located on the eastern seaboard of North America, the United States of America were just that. A bunch of independent wise guys who barely got along, each with their own views on slavery, indigenous rights, and federal power. But when they weren't threatening to teach each other chin music, they figured out that when you put 13 fingers together, you can make one hell of a fist. They whooped the gobs of anyone in swinging distance and made a name for themselves as hard-boiled knuckleheads. A few beneficial treaties and land purchases later, they were on their way to westward expansion, and boy howdy did they take to it. In the east, the rents were high, the food was bad, and the dust was worse. Even the newspapers said, "Go west, young man. Go west and grow with the country." Only one problem with that, people already lived there. If you choose to play the United States in Victoria 3, you'll find yourself in one dilly of a pickle, having to face down some of the darkest days in American history. But without proper knowledge, how can you hope to do any better? For that, let's go to our anthropological correspondent, Professor C. William Barnes.
The United States of America is a highlighted campaign in Victoria 3 and one of its most interesting, challenging the player to take control of a burgeoning nation and build it into an economic powerhouse. But when you begin a Victoria 3 campaign as the United States, the first things you'll have to tackle are the Indian Removal Act, the abolition of slavery, and the conquest of the western United States. Nothing too big, right? The Louisiana Purchase of 1803 transferred the legal holding of all the lands between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains from France to the United States. Unfortunately, the indigenous population there, the Plains Indians, had zero say in any of this, and they quickly found themselves beset by constant conflict with the encroaching settlers over who exactly owned these areas. In the game, you'll see that from the very moment you begin, settlers and colonists are slowly expanding your western borders, pushing ever further towards the Pacific Ocean and ever deeper into tribal lands. And it's only a matter of time before this will bring you into conflict with them. More pressing, though, will be taking a stance on President Andrew Jackson's Indian Removal Act, a decision to forcibly relocate all of the remaining Native Americans out of the American Southeast. It's the culmination of nearly 2 centuries of aggressive colonization by European settlers, and if you do not stop the removal from occurring, thousands of Native Americans will die on a forced march to Oklahoma in the dead of winter. But it's not just a matter of saying no and being done with it. In-game, your government runs on interest groups who, like in the real world, each have certain agendas and ideals they wish to pursue. Victoria 3 asks you to manipulate these systems of government to lead your chosen country. The removal of the indigenous peoples would free up thousands of acres of land and historically sparks off American gold rush fever, injecting untold millions into the economy. A morally sound decision may result in these unforeseen economic penalties, and the end goal for a United States campaign in Victoria 3 is to become the dominant economic power of the world by the game's end in 1936. So navigating conscience and capitalism will be the key to your success. Even obviously infamous topics like slavery were still hotly debated in the United States, with 2.5 million people enslaved out of a population of 17 million at the game's start. You may want to remove the institution of slavery immediately, but President Andrew Jackson's Democratic Party was in control of the government at the time, and since his in-game party is mainly backed by Southern planters, you won't be surprised to hear that abolition isn't at the top of their agenda. Putting a president sympathetic to their plight in office would allow you to work towards abolition faster, but it could also anger half your population and lead to civil war, so you'll need to make long-term, steadfast decisions in the direction you wish to take the country. Navigating your way through a sea of events, decisions, and elections to steer your agenda to adoption. And this is true for diplomacy as well. The newly formed independent Republic of Texas lies on your southwestern border and finds itself embroiled with the much larger and better supplied country of Mexico. Will you choose to support the Texan rebellion and then absorb it into your growing nation, or stay out of the fight to focus on your own affairs? Victoria 3 gives the United States of America plenty of ways to grow, from negotiating the purchase of Alaska to laying the first transcontinental railway. It's even possible to build the Panama Canal and help bridge the oceans, but only you can decide how you'll accomplish these goals.
Can you expand from sea to shining sea? Will you follow in the footsteps of those that came before, or forge your own course? Write history for yourself as the United States of America in Victoria 3.